Hello everyone and welcome back to the Grandmaster Chess Speedrun. In this one we are going to be playing pawn e4, playing up against a 2100 ELO player from Myanmar. They're responding with pawn e5, and in this one I'm actually going to try out the bishop's opening. This is an old friend of mine and it's actually a very neat little opening if you want to try and play it. If you're like if you're a Vienna Gambit player, then this opening should come quite naturally to you. The whole idea is that you play bishop c4 followed by knight c3 and then d3 and f4. And it's kind of like a Vienna Gambit, except you don't have the downside of all of those annoying lines where black can try and counterattack and the stuff where they play like queen h4, queen e4, and you have to trade the queens, for example, after you play queen up to f3. So it gets rid of a lot of annoying lines that black has, and more importantly, it will get the black player out of their preparation. So it's quite a simple opening to play. You just go for this setup, knight out, bishop out, pawns up, and then f4, breaking up the center. Idea here is that you're trading off one of your flank pawns for one of the pawns in the center. So if they capture it, I'm very happy to take and get a bishop developed as well. All right, there we go. They go d6, and already white has a nice little advantage here. After knight f3, this is essentially the golden development structure that you will have learned as a beginner, and funnily enough, even after learning it as a beginner, it's pretty good at the higher levels as well. So bishop g4 played. I'm gonna play h3 here. After they take it, they're likely to play a knight into d4, attacking my queen and threatening a checkmate here. However, I will have queen f2 as a response, which will attack their knight in the center and protect this mate at the same time. It's a neat little resource to be aware of and is very nice. So queen f3 followed by queen f2. We keep the queen active on the f-file whilst also pressuring the knight and protecting the checkmate. So I fully expect my opponent to take, put the knight in the center. That is by far the most standard. Alternatively, they can play bishop h5, but then I will play g4 and push them all the way back, which they do end up going for, fair enough. I will play g4, and after bishop g6, we can consider a move like knight h4, which will attack the bishop here, and if the bishop is forced back further, I mean, we even have knight f5, which is quite potent. But alternatively, we could also just castle the king, which seems very decent as well. Dealing with king safety is extremely important and also top priority. The only thing to watch out for is maybe they go knight a5 and try and capture my bishop pair, which could be a little bit annoying, but I doubt that it's any good, considering I'll have such a lead in development. So something like castles, knight to a5, maybe I can just strike with pawn e5 already, given their king is in the center, and we can really start to get the fire burning. I really like the look of this. Let's castle. I'm not afraid of knight a5, because we are going to strike in the center and try to kill the king while it is still in the middle. Okay, they go a6. This is a nothing move. I don't even know why they're wanting to prevent me from accessing the b5 square. I'm getting quite close to wanting to go for the kill here, I must admit. It is rather tempting. Let's say captures and I go knight captures and then captures and then bishop captures. I mean, it's not quite there. It's not quite there, unfortunately. Because they will just go bishop e7 and I don't see a clear breakthrough. So other moves that come to mind are that knight h4 plan, seems pretty good. And maybe like some improving move like queen e2, bringing in the other rook as well. Could be quite nice. I think of all of them, I'm going to go for knight to h4 to really try and lay into this bishop. And also, plonking a knight on f5 will pressure this g-pawn here, restricting their bishop's development. And if they ever play a move like g6, for example, then the bishop will truly be a very sad piece indeed. So let's play knight h4 for now. Always got to be careful with g5 ideas, but it's not possible seeing as the bishop is here. If we ever manage to capture this bishop, well, white is just going to be so happy with this monster light square bishop. At that point, I might play a move like a3 just to preserve it. But we have not opened up the diagonal just yet, so our bishop is not quite a monster. Okay, yeah, but bishop h7 is essentially forced. I mean, they have to play bishop h7. If you don't play bishop h7, you're just going to lose. Like, bishop e7, I take on g6, takes, and then play a3, and you are never getting to safety. I mean, you can try king f8, I guess, but maybe I play g5 there. Maybe I jump my knight into the center. I mean, it just looks horrible. It just looks horrible, and I would not want to go for it. I mean, there's not even any refuge that the king would end up getting to because the bishop is still slicing all the light squares. So, yeah, I don't know why my opponent's thinking so much. Bishop h7 is completely forced. but maybe they're just thinking about a follow-up after bishop h7. Wow, they go queen d7. Actually an interesting try, because they want to say that if you take, then I'm going to castle long, which is quite creative. What I am seeing is that they're going to have to watch out for like bishop e6 in that future position, which looks quite unpleasant. And also for the time being, I think I can just leave my knight here because the bishop h7 is not going to be what they want to do. It will block their rook and slow down the expansion of the pawns, probably. One move that is standing out to me is knight d5, and it makes sense from like a principles conceptual standpoint because we're trying to strike all the kings in the center. If they want to trade like this, then we can probably take with the pawn, or with the bishop. I guess both are okay, but I think with the pawn, they go here, here, takes, and then I take, and then takes, and their position starts to look a little bit undeveloped because they're left with this dark square bishop. So it's an interesting idea. And I think I'm going to go for it. Let's put a knight in the center like this. The alternative idea is that we are making a threat as well. We're threatening to capture the knight, seeing as their queen has just left the protection of the knight. And then after I capture the knight, they'll have to take with the pawn here, and that's going to seriously inhibit the mobility of their kingside pawn storm against my pawns. Alright, so which way do we want to take? It's an interesting question. I mean, taking with the pawn is positionally a little bit dodgy, but, you know, it does force the issue with black. Although I don't think it makes much sense. Like, at the very least, they can play like knight 97 and long castle, and my attack is not super clear. I mean, there might be some bishop takes on a6, but yeah, I think I'm going to go for bishop takes on d5 instead. We still have knight takes on g6. We have bishop takes on c6 now as well. And there is this interesting idea, which is that we can just go for an endgame. We can just go for an endgame here, and all endgames will be close to winning for us because we have this extra light square pawn. All their pawns will be on the dark squares for the most part, and we'll be left with a bad dark square bishop versus a good dark square bishop. Alright, so I am quite tempted by this as well, this move here. But then again, actually, maybe I'm just invading down on this f7 pawn, now that I think about it. A surprisingly potent move is bishop to e3, which looks a little bit nothingy, but I think it seems amazing because we open up this rook here, and the bishop is pretty well placed on e3. It can always reposition to d4 if we eliminate this knight. And I'm threatening to capture this bishop and then go rook f7 with a pretty dominating position. Okay, so they go h5, but I can still capture this and then do my plan, which looks quite nice. I'm going to go for it. Yeah, let's capture this one, and let's play rook f7. So I've infiltrated now on the 7th rank with my rook. They still have this very passive bishop to deal with, and even if they do somehow manage to open up the h-file, I don't even think it's a particularly big deal. Like, I have moves like queen f3, which will just hold the fort together. So I think that black is in huge trouble here. Look at all these pieces on the back rank. That cannot be good. One slight worry is that queen f3 can be met with knight e5, which is a little bit annoying though. Maybe I want to go g5 now though, to lock up the position. Seeing as my opponent is no longer attacking the h3 pawn. So it seems that their wall of pawns has kind of just died off. I'm going to go rook back to f2 here. I have to drop it back somewhere. Let's go here. At some point, I'll probably want to kick this knight out of the center, because it is a pretty annoying piece. But at least I have a d-pawn which I can do that with. So I'm thinking now maybe I want to go queen f1 and queen g2. I need to try and activate my queen into the game, and then bring my other rook into the game as well. And this whole game, I'm going to try and play for f-file domination. You can see that I currently own the f-file, and seeing as that's the only open file on the board, I also pretty much control the game. So as long as I can maintain this trump card, I should just be able to sit on the position for a while and enjoy all my positional advantages like bishop pair, better pawn structure, and all of this nice stuff. c6 would be quite a weakening move for black, so black can't really remove my piece from the center. Meanwhile, playing d4 seems like quite a decent idea in most positions. And in fact, I think I might go for it now. I don't see why I wouldn't. I can play like d4 and c3, and my queen on g2 will also support this pawn over here. So let's play d4 for now, attacking their knight. Their knight will likely go back to c6, I guess, and I can continue with queen g2, bring my rook in, and it's just a nice position to sit on. I'm going to speed up a little bit as well, because I'm noticing I have 2 minutes 45 seconds, so they're 5 minutes, so I'm going to have to make sure that I'm playing with a bit of pace if I'm not going to lose on time. Something to consider is whether or not knight b4 will ever be a threat. I don't think it will, because I can just play c3, and if they go knight c2, I can just drop the bishop back. So let's play queen g2. Also, yes, right, knight b4, I have bishop to b3 as well, so that's totally fine. Let's bring the other rook into the game, and just continue enjoying this position, really, because black cannot do a whole lot. They can trade all the rooks, which isn't that impressive. I can then put the queen on f3 and continue to improve, maybe invade the position with like a queen f7. If I can get queen f7 in the future, then bishop e6 would come with a pin, and they wouldn't be able to take my pawn because it would be a fork. Let's drop the bishop back like this. Yep. I would like to save my bishop. I don't think their knight is a particularly good piece, and I would much rather keep my light square bishop than trade it off for their knight, especially given that it would damage my pawn structure as well. Okay, they go for this. Do I not have c3 here, though? It looks like a blunder. It looks like they've blundered a pawn. c3, they go knight d3. I take it and then take here. I mean, looks like a pawn to me. I'm going to play c3. And that's kind of what happens. Like, when you play nice positional chess, eventually they try and lash out against your, dominant pawn center, but then it can go terribly wrong. Let's take here. Queen on g2, nicely protecting the b2 pawn as well. Not that it's super important. Let's take this one. And now bishop c4 is a big threat. Their knight is essentially trapped. So I don't know how they're going to deal with that. Maybe queen b5. Maybe they go queen b5. I can play pawn b3 threatening a fork. Then how do they deal with that? I think they don't. I think the knight is trapped in that position. Yeah, that looks pretty nasty. Pony has wandered too deep into the forest, and there is no way out. Every square is covered. Bishop c4 is a game-ending threat. So, I don't know. Let's see if my opponent comes up with some miracle defense, but I don't see anything. Maybe pawn b5. Maybe pawn b5. Could have done it, maybe. Oh, c5 is an interesting one as well. Wow. That's a nice move from my opponent. But now I have queen f1 with a fork. And I think that ends the game. Yep. Queen f1 attacks the bishop and attacks the knight. And that should be about it. Okay, they take on b2. I'm taking the bishop. And bishop f4 here, some king hunt will go down, and they're going to get killed, I think, on b6 with a dovetail, which is one of my favorite checkmates in chess. So let's give a check, and then queen c5 is a dovetail. Very nice game. I'm happy with that one. Let's take a look at the analysis and check out some of the ideas. Alright, so we didn't play a perfect game there at 86.6 accuracy, but I think we kept a decent advantage throughout. There might have been some chances earlier on in the game by the looks of it for some kind of concrete knockout. But not a bad game overall, a couple mistakes, but I think we largely held it together. And the bishop's opening is a very nice opening for the reason that it just gets people out of theory. And gets you almost always a positionally sound game, where you're getting these two pawns in the center for the one pawn in the center for black. And so with development advantage and all of that, it should be a little bit better for white. You do give up some dark squares around the king, and there's often some kind of unsafety for your king, although I think for the most part it's quite superficial. It only feels unsafe, and actually, if black, because of how passive black often ends up with these pieces and locked in like this, there's actually no way to exploit the weaknesses. So yeah, they go d6, knight f3, just normal development. Engine is saying that d4 is a better way to approach this by taking the full center, which does make sense, but doesn't it allow bishop here maybe? Okay, then you go knight e2, h3 castles. That's quite a nice setup. Okay, I went for like the more basic approach, just getting the knights out, getting the pieces out. h3. And earlier on I was talking about this takes idea with knight d4, which a lot of people would be quite scared of, but there's this nice move queen f2, which attacks the knight, protects the checkmate. A lot of players play c5, but then bishop e3 is very strong because you eliminate the knight and there's actually just no defense here. And if you opt to move the knight back, then yeah, bishop to b5 looks pretty nasty with like castles. I mean, the checkmate is threatened over here, like queen e7, knight e5. Black is getting totally slaughtered. So yeah, you can't play chess by moving the same piece multiple times and creating weaknesses. That's not going to end very well. So they played bishop h5. This allowed g4 though. Objectively speaking, apparently they should play bishop e6, which is kind of a weird one. Like takes, and they're left with this bad dark square bishop. I've had quite a few games like that. But yeah, they decided to retreat. I castled, which is a mistake. Better is queen e2 and going for big center. I think it likes the d4. D4 and long castles. Oh yeah, this is quite nice because they're going to castle short most likely. And so you get ready with the long castles, and then if they castle long as well, then you just have an advantage on the f file, and you don't even have to worry about any kingside attacks. So that's quite a nice idea from the engine. But I castled, went knight h4, which is fine, going for the bishop. And this knight d5 is also okay. Better is to improve the queen's positioning onto the dark squares, which also makes perfect sense. But after this trade, bishop to e3 too slow apparently. Once knight takes on g6 and c3 by d4, that's quite a nice approach. I guess, yeah, I thought the bishop would be better placed over here, but maybe the bishop is doing perfectly fine. And maybe my rook f7 plan also wasn't that good because they're kind of just going to develop and block it anyway. But then that would have dropped g7, although maybe that gives them a bit too much counterplay down the f-file. It's quite hard to say, but I think this bishop e3 plan is fine. Takes, rook f7, queen e8, and I liked this g5, because now they have no more way to push their pawns forward, there's no more attack on the king side, and white is very safe. Knight e5 is a great move though from my opponent, rook f2, and they have an advantage now after c6, which was a move that I was bad-mouthing earlier, because I was like, c6 just terrible, weakens all the positioning around the king, but apparently bishop e3 and d5 strikes very quickly. And do I not have time for d4? Because de4 with a pin. In my head I was always like, aha, they have to go back with like the knight, or the knight goes here or something, and then I'll get the big center, not like that, like e5 or queen f3, yeah. And I get to build up the big center, and I thought this would be quite good. But they have some tactical shots here, which is very nice, and they could have exploited a pin. So I missed this idea. Wow, yeah, c6, d5, trying to build the brick wall and shut my bishop out. It's a very nice idea. But my opponent luckily missed it, and then after queen f1, I guess it doesn't quite work anymore because there's no more pin. There's no more pin down the d file. Okay, but bishop e7. Now I kick their knight out, queen g2, and it's just about really improving the position here. Bishop f7 slightly better. Yeah, I probably should have considered that because this pawn is very well protected. Maybe a bit of an overreaction by me. But bishop to b3 is not terrible, and then eventually they just give me the pawn in the center, and the position begins to crumble. Nice backwards forking move. These moves are not super easy to see because it's like just a tiny queen move, but I'll be honest, the way that I should have thought about this position is, say there are two loose pieces from black which don't have anyone protecting them, and so I should have found a way, say, okay, can I attack both of them at the same time? I didn't do that, to be honest. I just looked at the position and I saw the solution because of pattern recognition. I don't really know why it came to me. But generally, if you want to brute force find this in a game, then you have to do this like manual process, what pieces are loose, and then say, okay, this is queen f1. I can attack both of them, that's a fork. So, but once you do this process manually enough times, then you'll start to find it just by looking at the position, like I did. But okay, they took here, and then now it's a forced checkmate. The king gets forced up to the side. They can block with the queen and lose like that, or they can get dovetailed like this, which, as I said before, is my favorite checkmate. So, nice game, So very happy with that game. I hope you liked it too. If you did enjoy this video and enjoyed my style of teaching, talking you guys through the game, then do check out the description. Send me an email if you'd be interested in some one-to-one coaching, as I do have 1 or 2 places left. But other than that, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.